If you're an intermediate guitarist and every time you pick up the guitar, you're stuck playing the same old boring bar chords and open chords over and over and over again on repeat, today I'm going to show you a simple shift that makes your chord progressions sound more fresh, creative, and musical. So every time you pick up the guitar, you can start actually creating music without needing some kind of advanced jazz degree. Now, when I was stuck in my intermediate rut, every chord progression I ever played, it always sounded exactly the same, no matter what key I was in. I'd grab the guitar and I'd rinse and repeat those same old bar chords over and over and over again, and eventually it became like flat and uninspiring. Maybe you feel the same way, maybe you're in this position at the moment as well. This was especially frustrating for me at the time because I would listen to artists like Steely Dan, Radiohead, Frank Zappa, and I'd always be amazed about how they made all these kind of like colorful, fancy chord progressions, and I felt like I was a million miles away from being able to achieve all of that stuff. The good news is, it's actually a lot closer than you realize. It's a lot simpler than you think to achieve those interesting sounding chord progressions. Once I learned two tricks, one of them being how to fit seventh chords into the Nashville number system, and the second trick being how to easily add extensions into your chords using the Nashville number system. Understanding how to create those fancy chord progressions became so much easier. All it takes is a simple leveling up of the Nashville number system to figure out how to click all of these fancy sounds together. So by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to break free from that bar chord and open chord rut and start creating your own interesting chord progressions. So we're going to cover three different things. First thing, the standard way of playing chords that keeps most intermediates stuck in the same place forever. 2, how to unlock those new sounds by adding in some rules on top of the Nashville number system that we already know. And 3, 2 quick exercises you can do every time you pick up the guitar to start sounding more creative immediately. If you follow those 2 exercises at the end, I guarantee you're going to start sounding more musical from today. By the way, everything that I'm showing you in this video is just a small part of my complete triad mastery program. This is where I walk intermediate guitarists through the exact step-by-step roadmap for breaking out of creative ruts, so you can pick up the guitar, play it, and make it sound musical, and also improvise through chord changes without feeling overwhelmed or confused. Now, I can only work with a limited number of guitarists each month, so if you want to see how that all fits together, you can either click the link in the description or scan the code on the screen now. But for now, let's just get started with the rest of the video. So here's what most intermediate guitarists are doing whenever they have to play a chord progression. They just grab the same old bar chords that we've used thousands of times before. Let's say we've got a chord progression that's like G major, D major, E minor, and then C major. Most people would probably play it like this, like G major, then D major, and like E minor, then C major. Like we're just using the same shapes over and over and over again. Now, there's nothing wrong with these shapes. These chords are fine. We all learn them for a reason. But at some point, they stop challenging you and you stop growing on the instrument, right? It's kind of like painting with the same 3 colors over and over again. Everything you start to do becomes kind of predictable and flat and boring, right? Now, if we want to grow and level up on the instrument, we don't want to throw all of that stuff away. We don't want to stop using it. We want to build on top of it. So we're going to take that foundation of open chords and bar chords and level them up to make them into something more colorful and inspiring. So here's the simple shift that makes your chords sound more interesting and colorful. First, we need to understand the Nashville number system. If you're watching this video and you don't know what the Nashville number system is yet, stop watching it. You're probably wasting your time. Go to a different video and learn about the Nashville number system first, and then come back later. But for those of you that do know what the Nashville number system is, let's do a really quick recap. So the Nashville number system is just a way of turning the scale degrees in your key into chords. So let's say I have the key of C major. We all know it's the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Each of those notes are intervals like the 1, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, back to the root again, right? We can turn each of those notes into chords using the Nashville number system. So the 1 becomes a major chord, 2 becomes a minor, 3 becomes a minor, 4 major, 5 major, 6 major, and then 7 is diminished. So essentially the Nashville number system, it helps you understand the formula for turning the notes in your key into chords from your key signature as well. So that's just a very quick recap of the Nashville number system. Now, once you understand the Nashville number system, here's where things get fun and interesting. Every chord that we play inside of a key signature can be upgraded into a seventh chord. So instead of just playing the regular triad like C, E, G, right, we can add an extra note on top of that and turn it into a seventh chord. So here's the rule behind how everything lines up naturally inside of your key signature. Let's again refer to the key of C. So we know that the first note is C, can be turned into the major 1 chord. You can also turn the 1 chord into a major 7. And I can use this major 7 shape from the A string to play that. The 2 chord is normally just a minor. We can turn that into a minor 7. And again, I'm using this shape to play that. It's pretty much the same as before, we just change one note. The 3 chord is normally just a regular minor. We can turn the 3 chord into a minor 7. The 4 chord is usually just a regular major. We can turn the 4 chord into a major 7. Again, using the same shape from earlier. Now the 5 chord, that's usually just a major chord, right? We can turn the 5 chord into a dominant 7. Now the 6 chord is usually just a minor chord. We can turn that into a minor 7. And finally, the 7 chord is usually diminished. No one really plays this anyway, if we're being honest. But just in case you're interested, you can turn the 7 chord into a minor 7 flat 5. This is also referred to as a half diminished, and you can play it like this. So if I run up and down all those chords using those 7th chord shapes, I have 1 major 7, 2 minor 7, 3 minor 7, 4 major 7, 5 dominant 7, 6 minor 7, and then 7 half diminished. And then back all the way up to that 1 major 7 up an octave. So in every key, you'll always find the exact same pattern. You have 2 major 7 chords, you have 3 minor 7 chords, you have 1 dominant 7 chord, and you have 1 half diminished chord. And again, the way this lines up, the 1 chord and the 4 chord of your key are always going to be major 7 chords. The 2, 3, and 6 chord of your key are always going to be minor 7 chords. The 5 chord of your key is always going to be a dominant 7 chord. And the 7 chord of your key is always going to be a half diminished chord. That rule applies no matter what key you're in. It's just a simple rule that you add on top of the Nashville number system. Again, we can apply this to any key that we want. Let's say I choose the key of G major now. So again, we all know that we can play the G major scale. And we can turn them into chords. And so on, right? We get that. You can also use different voicings and use those 7th chord voicings for this as well now. So my 1 can be a major 7. I can play that like this. My 2 can be a minor 7. I can play that like this. My 3 can be a minor 7. My 4 can be a major 7. My 5 can be a dominant 7. I play that like this. Again, I'm skipping the A string here. I'm not playing the A string at all for these shapes. Then my 6 becomes a minor 7. And then you also have the 7. You can play a diminished, half diminished chord like this. But again, like, this is really awkward. No one ever plays it. Don't worry about learning it if you're not interested. But yeah, technically you can do that, right? So yeah, I can do the exact same thing for any key that I want. And it makes those chords sound so much more interesting. So that's the first thing that we want to learn. Just a simple level up of the 7th chords that we can add into the Nashville number system. Now there's an extra trick that we can add into these chords to make it so much easier to find extensions, again, without having to be some kind of like jazz nerd or something like that. So this is what we're supposed to do. So here's the trick. Once you've got your 7th chords down in your key signature, you now attaches to the Nashville number system. Look at the chord you're playing and then mentally picture the chord above or below it from that same key. Now, if you just borrow one single note from the chord that's above or below, i.e. a neighbor note from a neighbor chord, and drop it into your shape, you're going to get a beautiful sounding extension every single time. Let's break that down into plain English on the guitar, just in case you didn't understand what I just said. So, going back to the key of G major, let's go to A minor. This is the second chord in the key of G major. Right? I'm using this voicing to play it. We know the next chord up in the key is the 3 chord. This is B minor, which is 2 frets higher. Now, I'm going to mentally picture all of the notes that I'm currently fretting down over here whilst I'm playing this A minor. If I just grab one note from that neighboring chord above and add it in, suddenly I've got an A minor 9, right? I've added in that extension, and I didn't really have to kind of think too hard about how to create an A minor 9. I just thought about another chord in my key above, and I borrowed a neighboring note. And again, you can do this with like any string from that shape. I can play that, I can play this. It's A minor 11. Again, you don't really need to know the names of these extensions or memorize specific shapes. As long as it's a note from another chord in the key, it's almost always going to sound good, right? So again, like, I know that those notes are in my 3 chord here. I can just kind of add them in. And it's going to sound more interesting for that chord. Again, you can do this anywhere you want in the key signature. Let's say I'm using the 3 chord over here, and I can mentally picture the 4 chord above. Okay, I know on the B string, that note there is in the 4 chord above. What if I add it in? Wow, how fancy does that sound? Again, I don't really have to think or even know what the name of this chord is, what the extension is. As long as I know that there is a note from another chord in my key nearby, I can add it in and it's always going to sound good. And again, you can do this with like any chord anywhere that you want on the fretboard. We don't have to kind of think linearly across the same string. Let's say I go back to G major over here, right? You probably know that you can play C major right underneath it like this. So instead of having to go all the way across here, we can look at the chords that are on the A string underneath it, right? And again, if I mentally picture what notes are being used in that C major 7 whilst I'm playing the G, and I add in one of those notes, I can get some cool extensions, right? So let's say I use this B string. We know that's a note inside of my C major 7 chord. What if I added that in to G major 7, just this one note from the B string? I get a G major 6 without even having to think about what I'm doing. Now, there's no real point in kind of learning all of this information if all we're going to do is just store it in the back of our head. We need to figure out how to apply it to the fretboard as soon as possible. So, here are 2 quick exercises you can use to level up your chord playing and break out of that same old repetitive rut. So, exercise number 1, upgrade your chords in a progression to 7th chords. So let's take a simple chord progression. Let's take the chords G major, E minor, C major, and D major. So that's a 1, 6, 4, 5 in the key of G. So step 1, just play it the regular way that we've already been doing. Step 2 is upgrade each chord to its 7th chord that corresponds with the key signature. So 1 is going to be a major 7. 6 is going to be a minor 7. 4 is going to be a regular major 7. And then 5 is going to be a dominant 7. So when I put all that together, now it sounds so much more interesting. It sounds so much less boring. Now, here's the second exercise that you can do. Start adding in some of those neighbor notes to each chord in that progression. So, first thing you want to do is analyze each individual chord in the progression you just played, right? So I played G major 7. I'm going to analyze this chord. I'm going to ask myself, where are the neighbor notes around this chord? What's my next chord above? I can do A minor. Let's pick this high E string from that A minor chord and add it into that G major. Now I get this, right? Then repeat the process for the next chord in your progression. So I add E minor 7. E minor is the 6th. The next one above 6 is the diminished 7. What if I take this like D string over here and add it in? That gives me... That sounds really fancy. Again, it's really, really similar to what I just played. I just moved the D string up 1 fret. I don't even know what the name of this chord is. Again, it's probably like some E minor with a 6th of some... I don't know, right? I'm not really thinking about that. I just know that I can take notes from other chords in my key signature and use it to change other chords, like the previous chord that I just played. I can borrow neighboring notes, right? So now I've got G major like this. I've got E minor like this. Again, repeat the process for every chord. Let's go to C major 7 now and think about the neighboring notes. So what's underneath the 4 chord? We have the 3 chord right underneath. What if I take the B string from that 3 chord and use it in that 4 chord? So I just lift my pinky finger off and I can play C major 7 like that now. And then after that, I've got D7, D dominant 7. Again, you can use any kind of chord voicing that you want for these dominant 7 chords. Right? We've probably seen this voicing before. Or like this. Again, you can be fancy with this kind of stuff once you learn the formula for how they fit inside of the Nashville number system. So again, putting all of that together, now I can play that chord progression and make it sound like this. Again, it's so much more interesting than just going... Right, we've heard that 1,000 times before, and frankly, it's probably quite boring at this point because it's not difficult anymore, right? So if you add in those kind of 2 steps, those 2 practice exercises to your chord progressions, you'll start finding endless variations whenever you have a chord progression to play. Practice those 2 exercises every time you have a simple chord progression, and you'll quickly level up your ability to just pick up the guitar and start creating music that sounds interesting and exciting. You'll actually make the guitar more fun to play because it's going to sound unique and different rather than just kind of the same old thing that we've already heard 1,000 times before. The truth is, if you struggle to just pick up the guitar and be creative with the instrument, it's not your fault. Most players are only ever shown bar chords and open chords, and no one ever explains how to level them up step by step in a simple way. Once you start seeing chords as part of a bigger family across the entire fretboard, and you understand how to borrow neighboring notes from above and below using the chords of your key signature, the fretboard starts to open up a whole lot more. If this video opened your eyes to what's possible with creativity on the guitar, I go much deeper in my Triad Mastery program. This is my step-by-step guide specifically designed for intermediate guitarists to help you break free from the ruts that you've been stuck in, understand how to pick up the guitar and always be creative every time you hold the instrument, and also understand how to improvise through chord changes with confidence. If you're interested in all of that, you can either click the link in the description or scan the code on the screen at the moment, and you can book a free guitar assessment call with me. Worst case scenario, you book the call and you end up with some more advice on how to fix your own practice routine and improve faster on the instrument. Best case scenario, you sign up to the program and you have a clear roadmap that shows you exactly what you're supposed to be practicing, so you know exactly how to become the confident guitarist you've always wished you could become. Again, if you're interested in that, there's a link in the description or a code on the screen. But if you want to stay on YouTube and you like this lesson, don't worry, you don't have to leave just yet. I've got you covered with another useful video. Now that you know how to make chord progressions sound more interesting and more creative, the next step is learning how to connect your lead playing over the top of that and improvising with freedom. So I've got another video over here that shows you how to improvise over those chord changes without being confused or over complicating the process. It's probably the perfect follow-up to this video that we've just covered. So yeah, you can watch this video right here.